Now, on July 14th, the Irish Times Disability Minister, or in the Irish Times to say, Disability Minister Finian McGrath, that he agreed with disability campaigners who have described the placing of relatives in institutions as akin to kidnapping or being dumped out of society. This prompted Ina O'Dwyer from Cahersiveen to write an open letter to the Minister, which is published in this morning's Irish Examiner. Ina's son Bernard has been a resident of St Mary of the Angels in Beaufort, which is a centre for people with disabilities since 1981. She spoke to Trassa Murphy.
I felt I had to write a letter to Minister McGrath after I read the headlines in the Irish Times on the 14th of July and read the article that followed. And I was staggered when I saw him use words like dump, like kidnap, like abandon, and with reference to children like my son. And I really felt it was like a personal attack on me. And I was reeling. I was sickened. And I started to write. It took me all day and all night. And I finally, got all my feelings down on paper. It was an accusation. I felt I was being judged as being a bad parent, that I would dump or abandon or have my child kidnapped from me. When, in fact, the reality was that at 5 years of age, Bernard needed 24-hour care, and he still does, all these years later. And I couldn't do it on my own. And the care he's gotten in St Mary of the Angels has been absolutely fantastic. It has saved his life. It has given us a life. It has given him a life. He is the best of all worlds. He has the freedom to come and go, to come home for long spells and short spells, to attend all family occasions. The staff will always accompany him, and to make it safe for him and to help us as much as possible. And I really felt that Mr. McGrath had no understanding of children like Bernard who are profoundly mentally and physically disabled.
Tell us a bit about Bernard.
Bernard was born in St. Catherine's Hospital in Tralee on the 5th of August 1976. And Bernard was a breech birth. There were lots of difficulties and complications which have left Bernard badly brain damaged. He was very sick from the day he was born, suffering from convulsions, meningitis, epileptic fits, and all of this lasted until he went to St Mary of the Angels in 1981, the 31st of August 1981, when he was 5 years old. Everything in Bernard's life began to improve. He has a fantastic quality of health now and is very content and very happy in himself. And I'm very grateful to St Mary of the Angels for everything they've done for him.
What would you like Finian McGrath to say to you? If you met him, what would you say to him? Well, you have in a sense, you've written this letter that's published in this morning's Irish Examiner, but if you met him face to face, what would you say to him directly, and what would you like to hear from him?
What I'd like him to say to me is that I will take a fraction of my 100 million and I will pour it into St Mary of the Angels and other fantastic facilities around the country, to bring them to the state-of-the-art facility which can help other parents with children with difficulties like Bernard who need 24-hour care. I will reopen the likes of St Mary of the Angels to new admissions. I will open it to provide respite to the parents that are crying out there for help, who have their children at home with them 24 hours a day. And that's what I'd love him to say to me, Trassa.
Do you accept he has a complicated job? I think it is the 100 million euro. That's the funding he has for to help people with disabilities.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's a complete waste in my mind, the concept of building separate houses, individual houses scattered around the county, and putting 2 and 3 here and 2 and 3 there, breaking up their little community, like the care workers and the nurses who work with Bernard and the other residents in St. Mary of the Angels know those children inside out. They know their every need. Bernard can't talk or walk. He can't tell them, but they can read his signs. And I think that is so important in Bernard's life.
And Bernard still gets to go home to Cahersiveen, doesn't he?
He does. Bernard is home every second weekend, as much as possible, for long weekends, for longer stays at Christmas, Easter, his birthday, family occasions. He's always on the go. You know, he has a great freedom. And as I say, it's like a home away from home. He has beautiful events in his life that take place in St. Mary of the Angels and at home.
Ina, do you accept, though, that for some people with intellectual disabilities, but not as profound as Bernard's challenges, do you accept that for people with mild learning disabilities, with mild special needs, that the whole decongregation idea, that moving them into the communities as set out by the HSE would suit that type of person?
Absolutely. I think it's a fantastic concept. If people are able for it, and if they're able to be vocal in their needs and their wants, absolutely. And with the right care and the services provided, that's guaranteed that they will be provided to them. And if it's their choice, if it's their family's choice, and if it's in their best interest, definitely. But there is a section of that population who are not able to do anything on their own. They're not able to look after themselves. They need 24-hour specialised care. And that's where the policy falls down, in my view, because the policy is geared towards people that you've described there who would benefit. And the likes of Bernard are the forgotten small percentage in this policy. And that's why it needs to be looked at again.
And the Minister, Finian McGrath, to be fair to him, he said that anyone who's currently in St. Mary of the Angels, if they or their family don't want them to leave, they're not going to have to leave. They will be able to stay in St. Mary of the Angels. That's something, though, isn't it?
It's something, but it's not everything, Tressa, because what's going to happen there, like Bernard is nearly 41. There are other residents there much older. They're not taking in new admissions. So what's going to happen as the population there declines? The parents and friends are doing fundraising now and trying to paint the place up and trying to save it, really, but the government are not helping. The staff have been cut down over the last number of years. It's a disgrace. So that's why the Minister, it's no good in saying, oh, they can stay there. How lonely is it going to get? A beautiful, big campus in the foothills of the McGillicuddy Reeks. It's the most beautiful place. There were times in my life I wanted to stay there myself. It was that tranquil. He needs to pour money into St. Mary of the Angels and other places like it around the country and bring the life back into these places again, because they're providing a huge service and a badly needed service. Parents and mothers on their own can provide 24-hour care.
So you would argue that you would argue, Ina, that St. Mary of the Angels, that was so vital for you back in 1981 when Bernard was 5 years old, you believe it'll be still as relevant for a young family that was in your position, say in 2031 or 2081?
Absolutely. absolutely. And with my hand and my heart, it would be the greatest blessing for the lucky child or children who would get the opportunity that Bernard got, because that has saved his life.
Can I read you that article, the Irish Times article that prompted you to write the letter in this morning's Irish Examiner? Now, it was written by Kitty Holland, the journalist Kitty Holland, and she spoke to Mr. McGrath, or Mr. McGrath was quoted in the article as saying he agreed with disability campaigners who have described this placing of relatives in institutions as akin to kidnapping or being dumped out of society, and that prompted you to write the letter in this morning's Examiner. And Finian McGrath is quoted as saying, absolutely, and I'm on their page. I visited one institution recently in the southeast, and one young man called me aside and said, Finian, get me out of here. I want to have my own place. I want to have my breakfast and dinner when I want, watch my own television in my own bedroom. And he was in this institution. My job is to get these people out of those institutions that want to go and get supports in place for them. Now, he does say he wants to get people out of those institutions for people who want to go. He's not saying for everybody who are in facilities like that.
And I wish he would stop using the word institution. The likes of St. Mary of the Angels is their home. It's their community. And well and good if somebody was that well able to walk up to Finian McGrath and say, get me out of here. I mean, that person definitely shouldn't be there. But I don't know any person like that who resides in St. Mary of the Angels. There's a glow of happiness and warmth about each and every one of them. You know, I suppose what I'm saying is that if there are people who want to be out in the community, yes, they have that freedom of choice. But for the people who want to remain in their special homes, they should also have that choice. They're not being given the choice, and that's the problem.
That's Ina Dwyer there telling the story of her 41-year-old son to Radio Kerry's Trassamore Fitzbernard, who's been in St. Mary of the Angels since 1981, taking exception at the comments made by Finian McGrath about relatives dumping and effectively kidnapping, having their loved ones kidnapped and brought into institutions in this country. Very strong and heartfelt words from her there. If you have a view on it, get in touch with us on the programme. A listener says, so proud of my mum. This is Lynn Fitzpatrick. So proud of my mum for giving such a heartfelt, honest interview. The stated goal of the HSE policy is Minister McGrath's words to eliminate all congregated settings. He has said St. Mary's Angels will eventually close. It's meaningless when he says people can stay if they choose. Staff will be moved with decongregated residents. Those left behind are already suffering that loss in other centres. Hope this is not a policy that's about choice. It's Operation Wipeout for residential care for people with severe and profound disabilities. That's a view from Lynn Fitzpatrick this morning. Another caller's son, Daniel, is a resident of Mary of the Angels for 36 years. It's okay for Finian McGrath. He has a child disability, but she's taken to her services every day and back. She says that she would never, ever move Daniel to anywhere else in the country. It's his home and the home of all his friends there.